I think we should be a little proud. I'm proud as a pastor. Now, I want to stay humble, but I'm proud that I think we should puff our chest up a little bit, let the devil know he messed with the wrong church. Come on, somebody. Come on, are you with me? We should be a little proud of what God's done. That $106,000, I said, Brittany, are you sure, baby? Are you sure? $106,000 that's went out to outreach locally, globally. I think that is amazing for a 2.5-year-old church. Folks, that's just this campus. That's not a combine. That's just this campus. I think that's amazing, dude. Are you with me? You say, John, where's the pig? I thought we were in the pig message. We are, but today's Vision Sunday. And I need you to know that everything I talked about Sunday is what impacts and makes all of this possible. If we don't have that, we can't do as much as what we did in that video. And I believe what that last thing is so true, that we need to believe for more because the best is ahead. The Bible says that the greatest things are still to come. Greater things are still to come. And I believe that, not just for this church, but for your life as well. Are you with me? Are you with me? Y'all better talk to me a whole lot more. This is Vision Sunday, man. This is where you get to hear what we're about. This is where you get to see what God's done. If you're like, man, I'm checking this place out. What are you about? You couldn't have picked a better Sunday. I think you could leave now and be like, hey, that place is pretty awesome. I don't know about that guy up there now. I hope he don't ruin everything. It's a privilege. My name's John. It's a privilege if you're in here, if you're watching online, it's a privilege to have you. And we do have baptisms at the end, and I'm excited about those. And I think we got like 8 people getting baptized today, which I think is awesome, man. And I get to chat with us a little bit about vision. Is that okay? It's pretty important that you have vision, all right? Now, what you just saw is our vibe. Our vibe is our culture. And my dad has made a statement for a little while now, and he probably read it in a book, I'd imagine. But he says this, that your culture actually eats vision for lunch. And what he means by that is you can have the greatest vision in the world. We can have this huge vision. But if we don't have the right culture, we're never going to get there. And I believe we have the right culture at this church. I believe the vibe is set up in such a way that is built around heaven's kingdom that we can have right here on earth. Yes. Are you with me? Yes. We got the vibe. So let's talk about God's vision for this house and why it's important for us to have vision. The first, I believe the first verse is in your notes, but there's 3 little points that I put in a little bit later that we didn't have time to get in, and it's just really just a couple things to think about when it comes to vision and the reason why vision is so important for your life. Proverbs 29:18, if you've been in church for any amount of time, I would imagine you've probably heard something on this verse. If people can't see what God is doing, this is him trying to get us to understand the importance of casting vision, for us to get something out in front of us. Vision is really us believing God for things that are in our future. What's that look like? I would encourage you to have a vision for your life, a vision for your marriage, a vision for 2022, where you can remind yourself throughout the year, hey, this is where I'm headed. I'm not there yet, but this is where I'm going. That's what vision starts to create. And God says it's pretty important. If people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. Let me give you just a few things that vision does for your life. It brings focus. How many could say, I need a little bit more focus for my life? Things are a little bit blurry right now in my life. It's true for your personal life. It's true for our church. We need to have good focus. Good focus helps you have wisdom on what to say yes to and what to say no to. It keeps your focus on your goals. It keeps your focus on the things that God has put into your life. You can't say yes to everything and be great at your vision. If it's not hooked up with your vision, if it's not hooked up with where you're going, you need to question, should I be committed to this? Should I be going all in on this? Should I be putting my best foot forward in this? Does that make sense? Because if you say yes to something, right, it stops you from saying yes to the big thing that God's doing in your heart and in your life. But if you say no to something, it keeps you available. It keeps you open. And it's okay to say no. The Bible even says, let your yes be yes and your No be no. What a great place to have that in your vision. To say, you know what? Let my yes be yes. In other words, when I say yes, I'm there. But also, I know I need to say no sometimes too. Is that all right? Not at serving. You can't say no to serving. Pick your vision, get it focused. Proverbs 17 says that an intelligent person aims at wise action, but a fool, I didn't call you that, a fool sets off in many directions. Y'all ever been going so many different directions you didn't know up from down? You ever felt like that? Am I the only one in the building? Okay, second thing a vision does is a great vision will bring endurance. You ever get tired? Are you ever like, I'm sick of doing the same old, where you just feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're like, I don't have the energy, emotional energy, physical energy to keep going. Check your vision. Check your vision. Because your vision will help you have endurance, because it will remind you again, not where you are, but where you're going. Not who you are, but who you're going to be. Come on, somebody. It brings endurance. I've been around church folks, even myself, where I get tired, where I want to quit, where I want to give up. I don't know if you know this or not. Everything looks great right now with what you saw on that vibe, but it took a lot of work. It took a lot of vision to get there. It took a lot of endurance to push through. All of that happened during COVID, right? So you had to have some strength. You had to have some good endurance. We had to have some vision out in front of us of like, hey, this stinks right now, but this is not where we're going. This is where we're going. And it brings endurance. Don't quit. Don't quit. The Bible has a book that talks about all kinds, I think it's Ecclesiastes, it talks about all kinds of different seasons. A time to mourn, a time to grieve, a time to celebrate. But one place you will not find, one phrase you will never see in scriptures is a time to quit. Don't quit. Come on, man. It's like some of you getting your wives, right? What if you would have quit on the first time? Don't quit. Come on, Chad, that's how you got hanged. You know it. You didn't quit. You bought flowers. You wrote letters. You flew all the way across the world to get hanged, man. Come on. You didn't say no. You didn't let something stop you from, you didn't quit in your relationship. Come on. You went after her. I told my daughter the other day, she was texting a boy. She thought I was mad. She thought I'd be mad. I said, I'm not concerned about you texting a boy. I'm concerned about the content of that text. I said, but I'm not concerned about you texting a boy. I said, but you better never you better never be chasing after a boy. You better make him chase you down. Come on, somebody. Don't quit. Endurance. Somebody say endurance. And then vision will bring you some peace. Vision will be able to help you lay your head down at night knowing that you got a plan. Even if it's not right where you want it to be, it can give you some peace to know that God placed this in my heart, man. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm headed. My relationship is not where it's at, where I want it to be, but I know God has brought us together for a reason. I know God has big plans. Man, I'm laying my head down tonight knowing that though things are a little shaky, I'm going to go to sleep knowing that God has placed something big on the inside of my heart. Does that sound okay? So that's just a few reasons why I think vision is so important. And if that's the case, then we should have a great vision for our church. Come on, somebody. How many are glad you come to a church where you know we're headed somewhere? Like listen, growth in and of itself don't mean a whole lot. Growth is a sign of health because anything changing is growing, right? So, and if it's healthy, it's growing, right? So that's a sign. But I've seen places that are really big, I say it this way, they're an inch deep and a mile wide. Where it's not just about numbers here, but it is about numbers. Does that make sense? But it's numbers where it's effective, where lives are being changed, where people are being impacted, where our vision continues to reach people right where they're at. And you say, John, well, what's the vision here at Life Church? I hope a lot of you know it. I'm not going to give you a quiz because I don't want to embarrass you today. But it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple vision. It's 4 little phrases. And I believe it's from the heart of God. I really, really do. The first part of our vision is to know God. To know God. That should be a point in your notes. To know God. Let me say this. It's God's will for this church to grow. Are you with me? It is God's will for this church to grow. It's God's will for lost people to come home. It's God's will for broken people to know that there is hope for them. It's God's will for marriages to be restored. It's God's will for young people to know that they have a place to belong and be a part of what God is doing as much as anyone. And the same goes if you're in here and you're the oldest person. If you got breath in your lungs, God's not done with you yet. Everybody go like this. Don't hold it too long. You'll pass out. If you did that, God's not done with you. Okay? If he was done, you wouldn't be doing that no more. It's God's will for this church to grow, man. And we will always make room for the next person. We will always make room for the lost. We will always make room for the people who are trying to get to that first step of knowing God. I wrestled with this when I was going through this and putting the notes together, because I told my wife and a couple of our friends the other night that I feel like I've been distracted by the first part of our vision. Because the first part of our vision, which should be first because it's what the gospel is all about, is for us to go into all the world and spread the gospel. Britt and I did not move over here for a bunch of church folks. We didn't. We had that in Danville. We moved over here for a bunch of church folks to be as excited as we are about reaching lost people. That's what we want this church built on. Is this all about the lost? Kind of. But it's also about you. Because if you can catch this vision and you can start to help us reach the lost, I promise you that while we're doing that together, God's going to be dealing with our hearts. He's going to be positioning our lives. Come on, how many would agree with me that as you stay lost people minded, God still does something great in your heart and in your life? So I will wrestle, and I'm committed to this. Can I just be vulnerable for a second? I've spent too much time, and I get it because of COVID. I think it kind of creeped up in. But I've spent too much time trying to keep church folk who know better happy in 2021. Too much time was focused on it's too loud, it's too soft. I don't like how we do that. I wish it was this way. Can you talk to this person? Come on. You say, John, is this church crazy? Yeah, we're a little crazy. It's okay, though. We're growing. Can we be lost people minded for 2022? And let's see what happens. Let's see the unity we have together. If we just say, hey, this is really not about me. This is about the next person. This is about the next person coming through these doors. This is about the person that God brings in, that single mom, or that person that's coming through that never met Jesus, or it's been a long time since they've met Jesus, or maybe they've been hurt by the church, or whatever it may be. We have an opportunity to show them Jesus again, show them Jesus for the very first time. Come on, somebody. I would much rather stand in front of God and him say, hey, you did a great job reaching the lost, and him say, you did a great job keeping church folks happy. Are you with me? Yes. Don't say you're with me and then send me a text later. Let's refuse that. Let's refuse it. Listen to this. I've read this before, but it's been a while. When shipping was a major form of transportation up and down the seaboard of Europe, and it was incredibly dangerous to travel, rescue societies were formed up and down the coast. If a ship was coming in and they got shipwrecked in the cold Atlantic Ocean, a bell would ring, and people would jump out into small little boats and go out into the water to save as many people as possible. Over time, they would come back and they would party because they had accomplished the thing the rescue society had been formed to do. They had one mission: get people saved. But how many know? Over time, when people are left to themselves, they'll make it about themselves. And they started to realize that the water was a little too cold. The water was a little too dangerous. The people they were rescuing were a little too crazy. And they just started throwing parties for themselves. And what started as a rescue mission to save people's lives up and down the Atlantic slowly became what you and I know today as yacht clubs. I refuse to let this church be a yacht club where we get so in-minded, where we're no earthly good. Are you with me? No new person should ever walk through these doors and not be bombarded with people of, hey man, great to have you here. The moment we're talking to the same people on a Sunday morning, we probably should ask ourselves the question, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Are you with me? Is this too hard? We will always be passionate about reaching people. We will always be about the one. Always. And I commit to you as a pastor of this church, try my best to lead the way and set the best example I can. That it's going to be really hard for me to get my mind off that moving forward. I want to hold tight to the idea that lost people matter to God, so they better matter to us. Find freedom. That's the second one. You need to find freedom. So you get to know God, and then you start to find some freedom. Acts 20:20 says this, you know that I have not hesitated to preach anything that would be helpful to you, but have taught you publicly and from house to house. Welcome to the publicly. Give yourselves a hand. You're at the publicly. Come on. This is the publicly. And we'll do a great job with our Sunday mornings, keeping them exciting, keeping them safe for you to bring a friend to. You're never going to have to worry about us doing a 75-minute worship set on a Sunday and you bringing your friend and them not knowing what we're doing. Well, we just need to soak in his prayer. Well, soak at your house. When we come here, we're going to dive in. We're going to give God our best praise, and we're going to make it where people coming into here aren't freaked out. That's why we try to watch even the verbiage that we use when we're doing communion. Hey, we're going to drink some, Christ's blood this morning. People don't understand that if they've never been there. That's weird to them. They don't get that, right? So we're going to take some time to explain it. It might be old to you, but it's new to someone else. That makes sense? So we'll keep our Sundays really exciting. We'll, whatever. And we'll have some fun, and we'll celebrate everything that God's doing. But then we're also going to be really good at the house to house. And that's our freedom. That's where we find freedom. That's our small groups. That's our small groups. They're getting ready to kick off here in just a few weeks. John, I don't like small groups. Well, how come? Because they're weird. Somebody's playing a guitar. It's out of tune. Then I got some person talking to me, and, I didn't even get a chance to talk. They talked the whole time. Okay, that's not what our small groups are. All right? If that happens, you come tell me, because we will shut that thing down, right? We shut it down. But here's the deal. We want you to be in these groups being led, being pastored by people who are leading these groups. That's where you're going to find freedom. We get stuck, church, on the knowing God piece. That's where we get stuck. And then we wrestle with, man, I can't get over this. I can't do, I'm trying to believe God for this. I'm having a hard time. Like, we get stuck because there's another piece, and we forget about it. And that piece is relationship. That piece is doing life with somebody else. That piece is being vulnerable. God says, listen, I'll forgive your sins, but to find healing, you need to be in relationship. You need to talk with somebody. So be in relationship. Find a group that fits you. Listen to all these groups we got coming up, man. We got relational groups, where they're going to be doing just activities. I hate that word. I don't know why that word is the only word that keeps coming to my mind right now. But fun stuff like going out, maybe bowling or whatever. They're still going to have a piece of prayer and talking through some stuff, but it's going to be more relational. There is going to be Bible studies who are led by people who we trust to be leading Bible studies. A lot of them are going to be based upon the Sunday's message. I mean, I know all of you are craving more of my stuff throughout the week. I know you are. There's going to be women small groups, in life groups, where it's done through Woven, and you guys are going to be meeting. There's so many that are going to be meeting throughout the week. There will be no excuse for you to say, I don't know, it doesn't fit in my schedule. There's going to be a financial one. Paul has stepped up, and he's going to be helping us. It's through the lens of financial peace. How many have ever heard of financial peace? All right, it's through that he is a trained coach through financial peace. But Paul, being as amazing as he is, he's definitely kind of made it his own thing, his own heart. But he's trained to be leading this. He's going to be walking people through what it looks like to have a godly budget. Come on, somebody. There's going to be men's groups where we're sitting around burping and all kinds of stuff. Listen, if someone tells you, man, I just don't feel like I'm connected to Life Church, I would strongly have to disagree with that statement. Because if you're not, you're choosing not to be. Because we've got plenty of places for you to get connected. And small groups is about as good of a connection that you'll find. And it's where you're going to get pastored. Well, John, I thought, Pastor, man, I'll go get coffee with you and we sit down and go. No. I don't have enough. I love coffee, but not that much. If that was the case, and I'll move on, we wouldn't even be this big. We'd have this section, because I could probably keep up with that a month, maybe. But that's as big as we get, folks. We have to get this idea that it's just Britt and I's job to pastor people, because it's not. There's people that God have placed in this church to help us do that. And we need to take advantage of that, because honestly, they're going to pastor you sometimes better than what Britt and I do. And we're okay to say that. Where they're going to be a little bit more knowledgeable in an area more than we are. Am I just babbling, or is this good? Okay. You wouldn't lie to me right now anyway. Hey, listen to this. Just to show you how this is the next step. Exodus 6:6 says this, therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord. This is God. I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians, and I will free you from being slaves to them. Now, some of us would read that and be like, God, you just said that. You just told us that you were going to set us free, and then you were going to free us from being slaves to them. It was redundant. But see, God knew something that you and I don't know. Is that not only did God have to get them out of Egypt, he had to get the Egypt out of them. And that is exactly what this process and step looks like. That when we get to know God, God saves our lives. We come into relationship with God. But what freedom does, what small groups help to do, is they help to get the junk out of us. Y'all with me? Yes. Let's be people who are willing to not only get to know God, but also be a part of helping someone else realize their freedom. Because sometimes we can be selfish and just think, oh, I'll just go for me. But what ends up happening is that you end up like finding out that God uses your junk to help heal somebody else as well. Yes. This is good, John. I know. But it doesn't stop there, because then we're still a yacht club. It doesn't just stop there. But now we have to take the next step of discovering our purpose, discovering your purpose. Where we start to realize that God has put me on this earth for more than what I even may know he's put me on this earth for. I've said this before, but you're not just a teacher. You are a teacher that is showing your students what it looks like if Jesus was teaching that class. You are not just a construction worker. You are showing people in a world that I'm sure is pretty worldly. Come on, somebody. In that kind of an arena, you're showing them what it looks like to live a life, even as a construction worker, to be able to live a life like Jesus would live a life. How would Jesus put that house together? This is my favorite one. You're not just a hairdresser. You're not. You're showing people what it would look like if Jesus was putting a weave on somebody. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You have a purpose, and your purpose is bigger. Just so we're clear, Your purpose is bigger than holding that door out there and greeting people. Your purpose is bigger than running a computer back there. Your purpose is bigger than that. God did not die, and God did not send his son and put him on a cross just for you to hold a door at church. But can we please, as God is getting us to the next level in our lives, can we please just help somebody else get there as well? As God is doing something in our life. And here's the thing, this is why I'm so passionate about God's house. Because I would argue that this thing that God has for your life is developed in his house. And it's developed through serving and putting others first and sacrificing time and effort. Is this okay? Yes. Discover your purpose. Get involved in God's house. Start to be a part of what we're doing here. Help us reach as many people as we possibly can. And the last one is you want to make a difference. Actually, one of the best ways you can discover your purpose, it's not the best way, it's a next step, is go through Growth Track. Go through Growth Track. Growth Track will let you know a little bit about our church, but I'm really not concerned about that as much as you learning a little bit more about what God has for you in his church. Does that make sense? The next one is make a difference. This is where we start to realize that the things that God has done in our hearts and in our lives, that it starts to make a difference in somebody else's life around us. It starts to make a difference in our world around us, where it starts to have an impact on people's lives that are around us. How many, when you changed, when God came into your heart, changed your heart up, how many can think of at least one person that was drastically impacted by that change? Your story matters. I don't know what you've been told by your mom and dad or your friend or even the last church you were at. Your story matters. And God is not waiting on you to get your stuff together and then start making an impact in his house. If that's the case, take the mic. Because I got a whole bunch of stuff that still needs adjusted, shifted, worked on, improved on. It's not about that. It's about availability. God's not looking for perfect. He's looking for available. The person that says, I'll do that. I'll step up there. I'll go there. I'll make that happen. And when you start to do that, people's lives are impacted because of it. We're a growing church. Can I get an amen? We have plenty of room to improve. We will never have arrived, folks. I told a couple people this week that we're almost like a baby with facial hair. This church is. I'm serious. We're a baby with facial hair. And let me tell you why. Because a baby with facial hair gives the illusion that he's older than what he is. We have a lot of stuff that's happening here that gives the illusion that we're more grown than what we are, that we're more developed than what we are. And I'm okay saying that because I want to remind us that as God is adding people to his church, as God is adding people into this house, that we're still grown. We're not going to get everything right. If you're looking for a church that's, not going to offend you, sorry. Like, you around me for 30 minutes, you're probably going to be offended. But we're a church that's okay with saying, God, we haven't arrived, but we're available. We're not perfect, but we're available. We'll show up. We'll do what we need to do to help you reach as many people as we can. I'm going to show you one thing here real quick. Lyric, Todd, come up here real quick. Elizabeth, Dennis, since you're sitting on the second row, you might as well come on up as well. I'm not going to do nothing, Dennis. I'm going to throw you in the pool. Other than that, turn this around. Other than that, you're good. Come stand down here, Todd. I'm going to break this down. You say, John, what does discipleship look like at Life Church? I just told you. Sometimes we're thinking discipleship is some class, it's some extra. No, it's really not. This is discipleship. You got someone who's searching. How many was ever searching for the answer? How many was ever searching for Jesus? Come on, I'm not the only one. Who's ever been searching for God? Okay, we have people in this room right now who are searching. They haven't committed to this thing yet. They're just searching it. Can we be okay with that as a church, where we're willing to give up our seat for someone who's just checking something out, where we're willing to give up our seat for someone who says, man, I don't really believe this yet, but I kind of like it. I kind of like what y'all are doing. That's a searching person. Then once the person who's searching takes that next step, now we got a new believer. This is someone who's growing in their relationship with God. They're getting around people who are helping them take their next step. They're getting around people to help answer questions that they have. They're getting around people to learn how to love people better, how to love God better. It's people taking new believers who are hungry. Come on, you ever been hungry for the things of God? That's what this is. And then you got a growing believer. This person's like, hey, yeah, this is cool, man. I see what God's impacting my life, and I kind of want to help out some ways. I'm learning that God's got plans for my life, and you're just growing in your relationship with God. How many, when you started growing in your relationship with God, God started filling your heart with some stuff that you're like, what? I can't do that. That's the point. He can, you can't. And then you get a mature believer. This is our 80-year-old people who give all kinds of money. No. We ain't that church. This is mature believer. You know what this is based on? It's not based upon age. It's based upon obedience. It's based upon the people who are saying, yeah, I can do that. I can show up there. A mature believer is one that's saying, hey, I'll help this growing believer take a next step. I'll help this new believer take a next step. I'll help this searching person, come on, somebody, take a next step. That's what this is. So what's that mean for our vision? How does that work? Well, obviously, we get to know God. That's the people searching. You got the new believer. You got finding freedom. They're stepping into small groups. They're getting a part of what small groups have for their lives. They're learning how to walk with other believers, be around other believers, separate themselves from people that continue to drag them down, and get around people who are about their future and about God doing something great in their life. Not perfect people, a little bit of crazy people, but yet they're on the same direction. Then that growing believer, come on somebody, they are discovering their purpose. And then that mature believer, come on, making a difference. Now we can give God a big hand. Give these guys a hand as they go down. Thank you, guys. That's it. That's our vision. That's our heart in a nutshell. And it's one thing to talk about it. It's a whole nother thing to do it. Are you with me? I'm done, and we're going to pray. I read an article this week that was about a pastor, but yet they were bad, kind of hating on him. One person in there said, every service I went to, he was encouraging us to ask someone to come to church next week. I said, they were complaining about that. I said, what? What? You're mad because this guy takes time to remind us and you that we should be inviting people to God's house? Does that not sound as crazy to you as it did me as I'm reading this? If you get mad because we stand up here and say you need to be bringing somebody, read Scripture, because you're mad at the wrong person. Can we make 2022? What if this is just a challenge? I'm not condemning. This is a challenge for Britt and I. We're not excluded from this, folks. What would it look like if all of us brought one person to church this year? Well, I've asked them. Keep asking. They've said, no, keep asking. Get them here. Heads bowed and eyes closed.